Welcome to episode 2 of Campfire Conversations. I am your host, Josh Hugo, and I'm here with my friend Jamelle and my other friend, Shawn. You guys can do a quick reintroduction.
Welcome, everybody. Watch Ask Jamelle on Instagram and wherever you get your podcast at.
Shawn, I don't do social media, so
He's one of those guys.
He's also looking
Please
at the
don't find
camera. Let the audio. No, you're not supposed to look
he
at the
just looked
camera.
at the I was doing what he did.
No.
Did he do that?
Did I do that?
Shawn, you're
Was I
you're
was I
natural.
biased in my
allowed.
feedback?
No, you're natural. That was good.
Okay.
Josh.
Really?
Josh is the only asshole.
I watched a lot of like early childhood acting like seminars, and they said never look past the camera.
Wait one damn minute.
No, I never did that.
We're going to come back to that. I'll let you start.
All right, so we wanted to start this week. Thank you to, first of all of the viewers who joined us since the official launch, like 4 days ago. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon Music.
Of course.
Wherever you get your podcasts at.
Mm-hmm.
And we're excited to come back again today for round 2. Shout out to our listeners in Belgium. 2 of them. Thank you.
Brussels, I believe.
Brussels, probably. Yeah. Maybe Louvain. Maybe, maybe they're at the Béguinage in Leuven. But either way, thank you to our listeners. And we're back this week. And so excited to have everyone here.
And real quick, big shout out to our boy, Mr. Jamie Shaw behind the board back there.
That's right. We can't forget our, we can't forget our producer, good friend, Jaime, for all of his work getting us to here today. So thanks to everyone for being here. It's good.
What we got over there on the table?
So we're going to start this week. We got a lot of feedback last week that the whiskey tasting was a real hit. And so we brought in resident expert, whiskey sommelier, unofficially whiskey connoisseur, and we did work stuff out with his agent to be able to bring Shawn Smith to the house. So let's snap it up for Shawn.
Can you be a whiskey sommelier and not be a connoisseur?
Well, none of
You
those
could
things
spit
are,
it out.
None of those things are real.
Sommelier P. Ryan?
So you're not like you're a whiskey master taster is like the cool
Yeah,
shit.
I'm going to go with Jamelle's word, sommelier, whatever you said.
Just saying.
And no, I don't think you have to be a
whiskey stranger?
you don't have to be an aficionado to be a sommelier. You could just spit it out all the time and just taste it.
It's true.
What's the difference between an aficionado?
That was a setup, man. Last week we hit 5 of those. You're going to miss that opportunity today, I see.
Yep.
Jamelle's agent got on his case, but all that's what he
And
said.
by
jokes.
agent, means my wife.
Did she listen?
I hope not.
I don't think she got all the content.
Yeah.
No. So, Shawn, tell us about why you got into bourbon tasting. Shawn, in many ways, is the genesis of the Bourbon Association with this podcast. So, what's your story, other than that you like booze?
So it started out for a love of alcohol in general, undiscriminatory towards any alcohol. Then progressed into the pandemic, and like many people, I was a little bored, and got into whiskey as something to keep my mind off of all the, just monotony of life, right? And
This doesn't sound depressing at all.
yeah, I mean, take it in. I
okay.
mean, now I will say, I mean, that's what it is.
Sounds
right?
like we need
but
to,
I will
we
say,
need to change course in the rest of this podcast.
I will say, my wife's family lives in Louisville, so obviously in Kentucky.
Good old Clantucky.
Yeah, so that got me an opportunity to check some stuff out and see some cool distilleries and just see some of the culture of it. And the interesting nature of what it means for the Kentucky economy and all that good stuff. As you know, I got married in wine country, so I've always been into wine as well. So there's some parallels to wine and to the experience with to whiskey in terms of how it's manufactured and kind of what it does. So there's some nerdy stuff to it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I like to chill out. So hopefully chill out. Just like all of us that have vices, that's usually what it's doing.
Thanks for sharing that. Meta moment for this podcast. One piece of feedback I received is that I need to acknowledge the speaker after they're done speaking. that
Thank
may
you for
also
the
apply
attunement.
to my girlfriend as well. So, life is one big feedback loop. You can apply it anywhere, I think. So thank you for sharing your background in whiskey. So
Appreciate that.
to the part
validation.
that we all want to know more about, we are not so shamelessly trying to promote brands selfishly and in the interest of celebrating and promoting good whiskey. Do you want to tell us about, I'll look at the camera. See, you can see the brand here, but tell us, what are we looking at? What are we drinking?
Yeah, so it's High West Whiskey, which is in Utah, in Park City.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Beautiful
and
spot.
This is actually an older bottle. This was a 2018, but this is a store pick, so that means that like this bottle was made particularly for that store, or the barrel rather. So all the bottles came from one single barrel, and this is what they made. And what's interesting about their bourbon, because this is their American Prairie bourbon, is this was finished in a Chardonnay barrel. So this is a finished bourbon.
Do we want to get technical for a moment?
Sure, we can.
So we're going to do some facts this week about bourbon. Do you know some bourbon facts, Jamelle?
I don't know a lot about a lot, but I know a little bit about a little bit.
All right. So we know that bourbon, what is one fact you know about bourbon?
It is made in America.
It is made in America. That is correct. There are, I think, 4 or 5 criteria to be bourbon. What is another requirement for something to be called bourbon?
Got to be made in Kentucky.
It does
No,
not.
it's
That
not
is a
to be made in
common
Kentucky.
misnomer. It does not. Interestingly enough. What is another thing we think we know about bourbon, what
Has
it
to
means?
be more than 50% corn.
It has to be above 50% corn in its mash bill, which we'll talk about in a second.
That makes it pretty corny.
You can get it.
Truth.
Yes, you can get a lot of corn in some whiskeys. Yeah, it can be very corny.
You're welcome.
Yep, that was a good one. And the third one, so we have over 50% corn. We have it's made in America. What else do we believe to be a requirement to be bourbon?
I know because there's like with tequila can only be made in certain parts of Mexico, right?
Correct.
From what in Colorado whiskey, it has to use certain types of water from Colorado. Is
Yeah.
that the same for bourbon?
Bourbon does not require a specific water. It does require that it's aged in white oak, fresh white oak barrels.
Whoa. What do
Virgin-
you mean
virgin
white oak?
It's the tree.
Yeah, we're really speaking only to the color of the wood.
I don't
But-
see color.
That's the second half of the podcast. Our viewers will be ready. We will. I hope today we do broach. We're starting off with this. We're gonna have a few sips of whiskey, and then
Yeah.
we're gonna really open up this conversation tonight. So we have aged. Is there an age requirement for something to be referred to as bourbon?
No, it just has to touch.
It has to touch the fresh white oak. It has to be
Charred.
over 51 charred
Yeah.
fresh white oak barrel. It has to be over 51% corn. There's one more.
It said oak.
I think maybe is it a proof requirement? I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, it has to be 80 proof.
It has to be 80
There
proof.
you
for
go.
bourbon. So that's bourbon.
Look, Josh knows it all.
Now-
anyways.
Now, the other element, and then we'll taste this. Or let's taste it and fucking.
Yeah,
let's
we should
fucking
probably say where it
taste
came from,
Yeah.
though, right? So
We
this
did.
also came from, if I remember correctly, Heritage Wine and Liquor, which is actually down if you're in Colorado and in Denver. That's over by 285. So it's just like right off 285 and like Federal or something like that.
So-
Down that way.
Shout out to my boys at Heritage.
Real
right?
quick, let me ask you
Heritage
a
Liquor.
question about. You said it's an older bourbon, 2018. Is that different from like an aged whiskey? You know what I'm saying? 'Cause
Nah, that's when it was bottled.
got you.
It's
Yeah.
bottled, but
So it's been aged longer,
Yep.
but it was bottled in
this
2018.
one
Gotcha.
doesn't have an age. A lot of
Yeah, it is.
places.
It's on there. On the
What
side.
does it say?
Right there. Keep turning. There you go.
Oh, okay. This one says it was finished for 1 year and 1 month. But to me, that's finished. It must have come out of their regular
Like,
bourbon.
correct.
Can I see the bottle real quick?
Yeah.
So because it's finished bourbon, it was in and this is the technical like controversy, right? Is that you can still call something bourbon that still went into something else other than
After it
into
it
the
did its
barrel, the
first
original barrel,
barreling.
right?
Yeah.
So part of that is it's called bourbon that's finished. So it's finished bourbon, right? And so it was finished in Chardonnay barrel after it spent its time in. And obviously, it's
it
oak barrel.
has to start in that particular barrel. It has to be fresh. It just needs to run through the bottle. And in fact, White Dog is a type of whiskey, technically a bourbon.
Dude.
I mean, wow.
I mean, hey.
Fucking wow.
Well,
First
we
it's
can,
the wood,
hey,
and now it's dogs.
next week or next time, we ought to bring in, who is that great distiller, first black-owned distillery in the United States, Uncle Nearest.
Ernest,
Uncle
yes.
Nearest. Have you had some of their
Nearest,
stuff?
okay.
So now you're just trying to appease me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's even
Josh,
more
are you
racist.
is that white guilt? Is that what that is? Did we just
You said yes
experience-
for the record.
did we
No,
just
you know,
experience that right now?
so our next question in a moment will build off of this real clear tension in the room. And so will this whiskey.
Let's just-
All right, so
let's
this
just
here-
drink instead.
Yeah, can you pour for me, by the way?
Can I what?
Can you pour for me?
Yeah, I sure can.
Just
How am I supposed to drink this whiskey?
however you want.
Through your
It's the
mouth.
best way to drink it.
You could.
Do
you-
I like wine? Do I?
No, you keep your mouth open because it's obviously higher alcohol
Yeah.
content, like slightly open.
So I'm
First
a
step.
mouth breather
First
now?
step.
Yeah.
Smell
I mean,
it.
we did. This is
We did this last week.
most
Smell
of the bourbon
it.
came from Kentucky, so
Smell
mouth
for
breathing kind of
certain
comes with it.
notes. Big flavors: caramels, vanillas.
I think it's like a B flat.
beef-
I'm gonna keep doing these jokes all night. But
Yeah, a B flat note, and then just drink it.
Yeah.
Just like pour it straight back.
The best way to
Close-
drink
pinch
it is
your
the way you
nose.
like it.
Pinch your nose and do it 7 more times, and we'll order you an Uber.
it's actually pretty smooth.
It's very smooth.
I do kind of taste the wine Chardonnay towards the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It finishes with a little bit of that. You notice. So the stages. So there's
Can you put the?
the bottle
Yeah,
or the,
thank you.
the cork. Yep.
Appreciate that. It doesn't really matter as long as it's not left the whole time. But
Ooh.
We don't
pretty
want
much don't want
bugs to fly in there.
Hey, fun bourbon
Is there
fact, real
fun?
quick.
That's fine.
Fun bourbon fact. What is the name of the hole in the barrel of which the bourbon comes out? It also happens to be an answer to your question of how to drink it. This is another orifice in which you can technically consume alcohol.
My pussy pink.
No, it is not that. Well, Shawn knows. What is it called?
I do not.
A bunghole. The bunghole is what the bourbon comes out
Yeah.
of. It's a bunghole, which is theoretically another way in which one could consume bourbon or any alcohol.
You can also consume alcohol through your eyes if you
Yeah,
want to.
butt chugging.
I don't understand how we got here.
It's not making the cut.
it might make the cut. These are real things, man.
No, they are very real things.
Is this a cultural thing?
Bunghole?
I think everybody has a bunghole. Doesn't matter what color you are, you probably have a bunghole.
What if you didn't?
You know what?
Deion Sanders, do you buy what he's selling or no?
100%.
I've bought several hats.
He's not. Yeah, tell me why. What?
You
So
know
you're
what?
both buyers. You're
Yeah,
saying yes
absolutely.
on Deion. Why, Jamelle?
I think that Deion has been and was a great coach, obviously, before he came to CU. I also think that culturally, as we were speaking about earlier, every black person in America watched that game this past Saturday with hopes of at least making it a game, if not winning it. And I hate to compare it to this, but it was kind of like watching the OJ trial, because it's just like,
Interesting.
hey, like, we need this. Like, we need this.
What about what is it about Deion that separates him from some other current African American coaches in terms of?
I mean, he's prime, right? He's got
Yeah.
the name. He's been out there, and he talks his shit, but he also backs his shit up, right? And being able to be that big of a name and still be able to produce at the level that he's produced over several different sports, over several different decades, and bringing it to a school like CU with the history that's up at CU, and and being able to do it, I think is noteworthy, not only in the black community, but I across the nation.
I agree. What is it? I mean, so he's prime, but I actually think there's interesting things to unpack in that. What is it about him that makes, like Marcus Freeman? I know people are sometimes cheering
Always
for a
gonna
guy
come back
like
to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, Ty Willingham.
I told you.
You're looking at, like, at one point there's 6 black coaches in FBS, and
Out of the 160
out of
something
117 like D1 single or double A teams. I think there's more now. But what is it about Deion? Like, you didn't say, and it's not a Notre Dame thing, but you weren't like, man, I was watching that Marcus Freeman game 1 looking for him to, like, win. Of course, like, sure. What is it about Deion, and why is that so, I don't know if the word is revered, but, like, what about it created that sort of energy with you and those of your friends watching it?
Well, one, I'm always rooting for everybody black, right? Except for Clarence Thomas. But, like, Marcus Freeman, Ty Willingham, I think what happened with Ty at Notre Dame, we'll leave that for another conversation.
Yeah.
But, of course, like I said, I'm rooting for everybody black. But the fact that Deion is so in your face, he's so the name that goes along with it, it's a lot, and it's a lot to cheer for.
It seems like, and what my hypothesis on some level is how Deion presents is deeply authentic, but not supported widely in like kind of modern media or white media or mass media, right? Like,
so
that is the persona. Media, right? Like, that is media. And I think that he jumps out as somebody who's like, hey, he's finally representing, like, the way that who he is in all spaces. And that's not the way, like, I mean, I don't know this, but I'm sure Marcus Freeman representing Notre Dame is probably presenting outwardly in what is a very kind of white normed
to your point, I don't think Marcus Freeman could present the way that Deion is, especially at the school that he's at, right?
I mean, look at the field. Who's on the field difference, man?
Yeah.
Like, Notre Dame's a historically white institution, right? Predominantly, right? Still is.
Right? Yeah. If Marcus did any number of the things that Deion did, he probably would not have that job right now.
He also doesn't have the gold jacket.
No.
What schools do you think Deion would also USC? Like, if he's gonna hopefully be successful at CU, I think that would be good for Colorado. It'd be good for Deion. It'd be good for the state and or whatever. But to your point, there's a lot of institutions. Like, would he do any of this in the SEC? How would that be accepted in the SEC?
You know what? I think that's a very nuanced and layered question. I also think that I mean that's where the big money is, the Big Ten,
right,
and then the SEC. But I also think, and this is on the sports side, that if I go to the SEC, I got to compete with Kirby Smart in Georgia every year. I got to compete with Nick Saban in Alabama every year. Or if I just
don't forget Brian Kelly at LSU, go Irish.
Even though he's a Tiger,
he's a Tiger and he kind of sucks.
With that being said, if I plant my happy ass right here now in the Big 12, formerly the Pac, whatever the fuck it's going to be. But if I plant my ass here in the Big 12, I don't have to play Oklahoma. I don't have to play Texas. I can waltz through the Big 12 every year and then still have a shot at the playoff when I don't have to go through that gauntlet of playing Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Florida every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I'm Deion, right? Like, Deion chose where he went because he's Deion, right?
Yeah.
Like, he can. Oh, you can't hear that?
I don't know. Is the mic coming?
Oh, we're good. You ain't producing, man.
It's probably that.
Yeah, you just try to ask the
Shawn
questions.
likes, so the audio listeners, Shawn is a big cheerleaner. So he's leaning very far back.
Yep.
So
it's the belly. It just kind of brings me
top
back
heavy.
as I go.
Top heavy. Shawn has a big
skinny
brain.
legs.
He has a
belly,
big brain.
You know, no back. You know.
But you were saying.
Yeah, but like Deion purposely went somewhere. Deion's gonna. He's so smart, right? Like, he's gonna think strategically about where he goes. Right. He knows what he wants to accomplish. And obviously, he's talked about it. Like, he's very religious in terms of how he thinks about the spirituality of his choices. Like, he wouldn't. I don't even think he would have thought to go to the SEC because I don't think it would have fit his vision he saw for himself and the kind of impact and position he wants to play in life. Right? CU creates just a tremendous stage for him. Like Jamelle mentioned, like, they have the history, but not the current, modern history.
Yeah.
So you've got that piece. He even mentioned, like, he never, he's a homebody, right, as he said. So, but he's in Colorado and he talks about how beautiful it is. Like, you do have a unique space there. And he's a leader of young men, right? And so, and he's flat out a leader. Is he a great probably X and O football coach. I mean, obviously the man is a brilliant player, but he didn't study the game like that to be that tactician, like coach. He didn't have the time, right? And he's too rich for that too. So like
That's why you hire a really,
exactly,
really good
and
staff.
that's why a great leader knows what they do well,
sounds like he
what they
has that.
need, and that's what he's done.
Yeah.
And are they like the perfect team? Probably not. Like, do they have holes? Like, I'm a little concerned about the defense, right? Like, but that's also time.
Yeah.
But like, they've got some tremendous skill players, and they've got a lot of heart and a lot to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And Deion's going to find places where he can still, because he's a competitor, right? He's going to find a place where he can find something, a chip to put on his shoulder, because that's what's going to motivate him, is to have that competition. And so in the SEC, it's going to be a bunch of noise, right? And like you said, he's authentic. He's going to be himself, and he's going to put himself in a position where people aren't going to put strings on him. And at Jackson State, he said, like, he started to feel like people were kind of coming up on him, and this, that, and the bureaucracy of this and that. He wasn't going to mess with that noise. Why would you? Like, he has nothing to gain except whatever he wants, and that's a very freeing thing to do.
Yeah. Well, go Buffs.
Thank
Go
you for
Buffs.
sharing that, Sean. I'm acknowledging.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That wasn't very good. You did not do a good job.
Sean,
that
thank you.
time.
No,
Get your
You can
shit
say
together.
things like,
I'm
you
learning-
can say
learning-
like, that was insightful. I haven't thought about it that way. Like, man, I could tell that you like had thought about that. That
this is
seems
what
like
we call
something you've thought about,
real-time feedback. No, thank you. Both of you have a lot of good insights about Deion. That was actually intended to be just kind of a quick little.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
And I thought you were just going to keep going to Jamelle because he's black, but you came to me. That was
No,
great.
we've
we already
addressed.
talked about white dogs
So
and
we've
white
addressed.
oaks.
Yeah,
so-
we've. So we're gonna let's talk about something a little bit lighter.
That was pretty light.
College football is serious,
We're going
y'all.
to talk about Notre Dame.
Right, one word. What would bring more people together in America?
Just one word.
One word.
One phrase.
Phrase?
No more than 4 words, please.
Okay, hold on. That's quite a bit of criteria.
I'll go.
5 syllables max.
Can it be haiku?
Ooh.
That is more than 5 syllables.
Fair.
First line of a haiku, 5 syllables.
I got what's going to bring America together, and what I actually think has already brought America together. Yeah, I thought about this honestly. My one word. My hyphenated one word. Kool-Aid.
Okay, we're gonna answer it first, and then we're gonna go back. Water parks.
That's definitely not one word.
Yeah,
Whoa.
water parks, 3 syllables. That meets the criteria.
Say heart.
All right, well, let's start with the fun answer. Kool-Aid.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you thought yours
Heart.
was fun.
My girlfriend said love, and I said, that's why you're not on this podcast tonight. No,
So
we
it's
can talk.
heart- it's heart-
Yikes.
Is that
No,
a,
that
like,
was
subtle
harsh.
passive aggressive?
Yeah, that was.
No, we'll land on heart. I think, yeah, let's all break it down in all seriousness. So talk about your rationale for Kool-Aid, Jamelle.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Hugo. One of the reasons on my podcast, we are
A real podcast.
working on our own
Wash
seltzer.
that, Jamelle.
Ooh.
We're working our own seltzer, right? And we were kind of talking because there's, several like White Claw and stuff like that out there. That's like
White Claw. I'm just calling it out, just like you.
I'm just saying.
Isn't that the wave thing? Isn't that what that is?
Yeah.
Is it a wave?
So there's White Claw. There's different seltzers out there, but they don't really taste that great, right? It's almost like drinking LaCroix.
I've never had one.
You've
With
never
the
had a
X.
seltzer?
So here's the thing,
That's hard to
right?
believe,
So we're
man.
like, hey, you know what? We're younger, not younger. We're washed guys, 30 to 30, 35 to 38 years old, trying to figure out something that tastes good. We're not necessarily I want to drink a heavy beer. Let's explore the seltzer. And shout out to Spangling Brewery. They came to us with
Spangling,
a
another
drink called
good place.
Cool Jams, which is basically Kool-Aid mixed with a seltzer.
Oh, were they pouring that the night you recorded your podcast?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
right on.
we
Yeah,
tasted that. We're partnering with them, and we're coming up with a Shindig, is what it's called, Shindig
Sure.
Seltzer,
Nice.
right? And it's a kind of the play. But when I was
Very
thinking about it,
cool.
I was like, you know what? We don't want to just advertise to black guys who are 30 to 35, 38 years old. We want everybody to be a part of this. And what's something that brings people together?
Kool-Aid.
Everybody in America has a Kool-Aid story.
It's true.
But then I started thinking, Do white people drink Kool-Aid?
So the very first time I had beer, I was given a very like strong IPA, Goose Island, which when you're 18 drinking beer, and yeah, I know that's a little late, but yeah, I was, and it was like too fucking rough. So I poured. Guess what I poured into it? Kool-Aid. Tasted like shit because IPA and Kool-Aid doesn't go well. But a seltzer and Kool-Aid would probably be delicious. And my other Kool-Aid story, very briefly, and I think I've been traumatized in school since. I was in kindergarten, and we had a show and tell. And we were supposed to bring in something that started with a certain letter. And this kid, I don't remember his name, just did whatever the fuck he wanted, I guess.
Fucking Johnny.
He was supposed to bring in something that started with an X, which is a hard thing to find, show and tell. He brought an Ecto Cooler. Ecto Cooler, which may have been owned by Kool-Aid.
Sounds like Johnny can't read.
But there was no X in it, and I was so stumped. I was like, the teacher's like, oh, Eric, that's so cool, Ecto Cooler. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, where the fuck's the X? And so that's my other Kool-Aid story, if Ecto Cooler is considered part of Kool-Aid.
I'm 98.6% sure that it's not.
Do you remember who was on? Do you remember who was on the
Slimer,
Ecto Cooler?
right?
Slimer. Yeah, Slimer of the Ghostbusters.
Yep.
All right,
And
so those are my Kool-Aid stories, but
Do I get to tell?
yeah, Shawn gets to do his, please.
Okay.
And then we need to bring it home with why Kool-Aid brings America together.
So, we didn't really have Kool-Aid, not because
you guys have Flavor Aid?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But the Kool-Aid we saved. So my grandma would make homemade popsicles, and you make it with the Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid,
So
yep.
we keep the good Kool-Aid
Yep.
for the popsicles.
Yep.
Because it gets like that top. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you put the stick, and then it gets that little gooey stuff at the top.
All the sugar rises
Like the other
up,
stuff
yeah.
wouldn't do that, but the Kool-Aid would. So that's what we have that, and obviously like the color, the purple drink and stuff in the gallons and stuff.
I want to try
Or
the
2
other one
gallons,
there.
But
Yeah.
But no, that was another part of it. It was like everybody has a Kool-Aid story or a variation thereof.
Yep.
Flavor Aid being one of
Yep.
them. But real quick, I would love to hear from our resident East Coaster about his Kool-Aid story, if Shaw has
They
one.
drank lemonade.
I mean, yeah, my mom would, I didn't hear about Kool-Aid till probably, high school.
Really?
Yeah, my mom was
Straight
all
up
natural
sugar,
peanut
man.
butter, whole
Yeah.
wheat
Oh,
breads,
yeah.
and cereals with less than 6 grams of sugar or whatever. But yeah, in college we had a Kool-Aid and vodka,
Yep. Yep.
punch bowl situation.
Yep.
And, yeah, I mean,
But I mean, it's part of the culture, not even the culture. It's part of American culture. I would
Yeah.
even say that if there's one thing that unifies, to bring this home, to your point,
Yeah,
Josh,
yeah.
there's one thing that unifies it. Everybody has gone to a McDonald's. Everybody has done XYZ in America. And one thing that I think that unifies America is there are common places, our common stories, and Kool-Aid being one of those. And so if I was able to, and hopefully market this new wash seltzer to anybody based on the fact that we've all had Kool-Aid before.
Awesome, man. Very cool. We'll have to look for that.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Josh.
That was a good one.
You're welcome.
That was a really good one.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
I notice how your voice gets lower though when you're trying to.
Very
Yeah.
Dr.
Hey.
Phil.
Yeah. Let's talk about heart.
I can tell.
I think let's string these together. I would like to hear about heart, and I'll share maybe how water parks do or does not fit into both.
Is that a
of
good
your
closer, you
answers.
think?
No, we're not closing. We're
No,
not
I'm
closing.
saying no for you out of the 3.
Yeah,
Full
Yeah.
circle.
it might be.
Okay,
it might
cool.
be. But Shawn, tell us why heart would bring America together. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's authenticity of experience. Like you in many ways, right? When you think about the opposite, right, which is not being unified, there's usually something within our environment and our society that has led us to choose that, right? It's a choice, right? And a lot of that's fear, a lot of that's other things, right? But to me, there has to be if you think about heart and you think about like Jamelle said, things that we've experienced that are the same. Like when you think about the love of a child, you think about the love of a parent or someone who's close to you.
Mm-hmm.
You think about love. And that's what I think about when I think about heart. And when you know someone and when you know a diverse group of people in your lives and you love someone, you are unified with them.
Yeah.
And when there's another unifier, which is hate, right? Hate and anger, that's a unifier as well, just like anything else. But the opposite of that is love and heart. And I think seeking the opposite allows for you to have those experiences beyond what hate drives.
You know what? When I heard you, sorry to cut you off, Josh. When I originally heard you say heart, I was thinking about like that guy's got a lot of heart. Like he's willing to do the hard thing. He's willing to stick in there. Effort. Yeah.
It's part of love, though, isn't it?
Right. And then so when you explained it, I was taken aback, to steal a word from Josh, but because I didn't think
2 words.
didn't think that's what you meant. But with that being said, I hear what you're saying. I think both are true in that vein, though.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think, love to both my girlfriends' points, to Shawn's
sorry,
point.
you said my girlfriends.
Both my girlfriends.
You have 2 girlfriends?
I
That's
have
a lot
one.
of love.
I was like, dang.
I have one. I promise you, Lindy. I know you will listen to this eventually, maybe for the first and last time. But no, I only have one. But heart, that's the goal, right? Kool-Aid, I think my answer went to the how.
Mm-hmm.
Your answer went to the what. My answer goes to the how. And I said water parks, and I was actually just at Pirates Cove. Have you guys ever been to Pirates Cove?
Been to Pirates Cove, down south.
Have you been? Yeah, down.
My kids have been. I have not.
Is that the ghetto bird bag?
It is the ghetto bird bag.
Yeah. As you can see, we're
There's
not
no
in the
light,
ghetto.
There's no light.
Yeah.
We're not going to reuse that joke. That is a loud helicopter, though. Do they not
they
know
do
what
that.
we're trying to do?
I honestly don't. That's not the police helicopter.
No.
That's a much bigger
Those
helicopter.
are usually
Oh,
all
that's
the helicopters here are
the army
hospital.
helicopter. That's
They're
like one
usually
of
the
those
hospital
Chinooks.
helicopters, yeah.
That's a Chinook. It is. That's like a double-bladed
I believe it's
helicopter.
pronounced Chinook.
Can we get this on camera,
But
everyone?
I love how you said it's loud.
I don't think we
it
can,
has
but
to
it's.
do with,
Much bigger.
We're all looking. I honestly love.
I think this is super close. I like how we
It's finally happening.
I like how we're like adding our thoughts as if we have
Any
authority
idea?
to provide
Any idea what the
perspective
fuck is going on?
What's going on with the helicopter?
Somebody listening to this, we're going to hashtag
We're gonna
Chinook.
hashtag
We're going to hashtag. We're going to
Chinook.
hashtag Chinook,
or Chinook.
and it will evoke those who follow military aeronautical devices, and will also probably invoke some listeners from our Native American friends. I don't know which tribe the Chinook are, or where they are from.
I'm not even gonna touch that.
We're not going
one.
to touch
No,
that. No,
not going
I
for
mean,
it.
that probably is a term that was fully appropriated by the U.S. military. We can probably state
Really?
that
What-
pretty
what?
unequivocally.
What gave that away to you?
American military appropriating
I
things.
know, right? Yeah.
Never
She
heard that
just-
before in my
man,
life.
You got a nose for this.
We're not going to hashtag U.S. Army because we don't want this podcast censored.
Wow.
Can't get research on this because Josh didn't remember the name of his internet.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need research. We're
How
going
do
to
you not
go.
know your internet, man?
It's like 28 digits. How many of you don't change
Don't
your
you
internet?
write it down?
Yeah, it's in the other side of the house.
So you just
So
didn't want to
here's-
go to the other side
Sorry,
of the house.
before you continue
we,
about water
we made a
parks,
decision.
here's a better question, and hopefully we can cut this. Here's a better question. Do you know the name of your internet at home? I know I changed mine. Do you change yours, or you just go with the
I think
out of the
I
box?
do now.
Out of the
I
box.
think I do now.
You don't even do anything with it.
I don't even mess with it because that's coding and
So
shit.
what we do? It's out of the box. We have it like written down, and it's in like the drunk drawer. You
Yep.
know, so like
Yeah.
anybody comes down,
Junk
it's got the
drawer.
password and the thing, and I just hand it to them. And if I change it, because my parents come over, you know, because they visit every couple months, right?
They have the same iPhone
But
from
can
8
you
years
imagine
ago.
the frustration and annoyance in my life? If I change that, my dad has to change it every time he's trying to get on his phone. I'm not doing that shit.
So real quick,
Yeah, right.
America, for those of you listening, write in, comment underneath this post, tag me at Wash Jamelle, or check in with one of our social
At
media feeds
campfire
here,
underscore
Don't have
conversations underscore podcasts.
and let us know
Rolls off the tongue.
when you change your Wi-Fi at home. Is it just fresh out of the box, you leave it as it is, or do you actually change it to be something memorable? Let us know.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Or
We're
witty.
going to
Witty's
do
like a
some
popular
audience
choice.
polling this time.
I've got 4 options. We're gonna guess which one is Josh's internet.
Okay, real quick.
4 options. Okay.
I'm eager.
Too much tuna.
No, he's not. That's
Mose Eisley's Cantina.
no.
Juniper. Or looking for feet pics.
None of
Looking
them
for
are
what?
his internet.
Looking for feet pics.
None of those.
Are those literally options in my neighborhood?
You really don't trust your producer.
This is the second time you have questioned your producer.
I'm just saying that
We need
you
to
guys
talk
need to
about
guess
Mama
which one of those
Hugo
4 is mine.
because there's
Which
some
one of those
stuff
4?
coming out right now.
Which one of
Trust
those 4 is
issues.
mine?
I am going to go with looking for feet pics.
None of them are. There's no way. Yours is like a number.
Yeah, that's a number.
CenturyLink.
Yeah.
911.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's get back to water parks. I'm
water
sorry.
parks. Yep, water parks. Yeah, so what was that Pirates Cove this past weekend with the kids? And, I mean, I thought a few things. Like, everyone here is getting along pretty damn well. People are getting some sun. I guarantee that the number of people in that place had very different voting records and political beliefs. But you know what? The unifier was chlorine, water, and, you know, just people enjoying in a common space, in a community space together. And one of the things that jumped out is like they have a lazy river, and you have to wait in this line, and the tubes come up the river, and halfway around the lazy river is when they're dropped off, and then they float without a person on it halfway around. And then this line has to kind of work together to pick up a tube and pass it down and bring it to the person at the front of the line. Nobody cuts the line. People are like trying to take multiple tubes to be helpful at once, and really the best method was just to pass it down. But we communicated and like, hey, just pass it, and they kind of smiled and did it. Like, everyone just kind of worked, although somewhat, you know, no one was really talking that much, but like people were just happily like supporting without knowing each other a common procedure to get people to hang out and just have a good time. And I was like, you know, it's hard in this climate. You can spend a lot of time on news feeds. You can spend a lot of time talking to people who are deeply passionate about politics, parents, friends, etc. And I get it. I fully get it. And it's there's a lot to be alarmed about, worried about, frustrated by, fearful of. And at the same time, like, if all we do is spend our time in those spaces, that is all we're going to think about each other, right? We're just going to assume and think that it is that hatred or that divisiveness that is the unifier, to Shawn's point. And so it's not water parks, it's not literally Kool-Aid, but it's the idea that there's a lot more in common with us as humans than there is that is not in common. And it's you can monetize it, you can gather followers from it, you can create movements from it, and it being hate, it being a common, you know, unifying theme of disdain for the other. But there's way more in common that people have. And I think that the great fear I have, and I think it will relate to the next thought I have or question I have about what it means for us as parents, but like the fear I have is that is how we are kind of devolving towards, is like, what's the quickest way to categorize? And we do that. We've done it historically in many other insidious ways, but we're now doing it not just based on visible things like the color of one's skin or where you go to worship or what you put on your head, but also based on where you live and what, you know, political party you associate with and what kind of car you drive and what you might say, like what channel you watch on TV, and just so many factors that exist to try to categorize who is with me or who is not. And I think that is why getting together in these communal spaces where who the fuck cares? Float in a river, go down a water slide, get some churros, and, you know, be decent to each other. That to me is what is missing. And I think we need more Kool-Aid at water parks to bring out the heart that I think people ultimately do have towards each other.
I'm going to pause right there because that was a beautiful moment you just had. Thank you for sharing that, Josh.
Well, you're welcome.
Now that you have shared that, I want to ask you, how many black people were at this
I
water
know.
park?
That's the whole time. I'm just like, so how many black
Also-
people?
Yeah, it was diverse, man. It was, it was probably a proportional ratio to Denver.
And with that being said, why aren't there more black people at water parks?
Well, we talked about the history of swimming and the association with swimming pools and white supremacy last week. Do you want to just do a quick recap for
I
viewers?
don't.
Yeah.
Just wanted to,
Just like the rehash.
The
that,
theme
you
is
know?
the theme is.
I would like
is
to
clear,
rehash
you know?
racism.
Yeah.
It was actually fun.
Say what?
I had an actual fun cop experience recently.
I've never had
A
a
fun cop experience.
I'll tell you my fun cop experience when I was actually getting arrested, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, it was just kind of fun because, like,
we won't
I
put
was
that
driving
on.
back, so drove out to my in-laws, right, for the summer and some stuff, right? Because, of course, I got to, like, drive the dogs out and all the bullshit you got to do, in life. So I'm coming back, and obviously I'm speeding because, like, that drive fucking sucks.
Yeah.
From
Get home.
Kansas?
I'm, like, in Kansas,
80,
right?
Yeah.
80, 90?
And
What's
people
the
are
road?
flying.
70,
It's
70?
like 80,
I-70.
85. on
No,
the
the
Oh,
highway.
number.
Highway
That's
70.
70,
Yeah,
right?
70.
70.
So I'm on 70, and then so I'm like rolling with the people that are rolling, right?
Yeah.
And I get pulled over by like a cop, and it's a lady, like young lady cop, right? Blonde hair, whatever, right? What? Lady cop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is this
Yeah.
like the Lil Wayne song about to happen?
No,
Got stopped by a lady cop?
No, but the funny part was like, so I go into like my, my thing I do when I get pulled over, right? So I only roll the window down that much, right? And put my hands
So
on
you
the
can see
wheel.
him. Yep.
And I'm like this, and she goes, I pulled you over today because I could tell she was like brand new,
Yeah.
nervous, voices cracking and
Yeah.
stuff. And she's like, I pulled you over and because you're speeding. And I was like, well, what about like the three people in front of me that were going faster than me? And she was like, well, I had you at this, you were speeding. I was like, okay. And it just stood there silent for like 30 seconds. And I'm like,
Yeah, you don't have to talk.
and then I go, and I felt bad. I was like, do you want my license and registration? She goes, yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you need my insurance? She's like, yeah, I don't need your registration. I just need your license. And it's just like that. And she went away, and I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, God damn it, like pissed off. And she comes back, and she's like, be safe out there. And I was like,
You're welcome.
oh snap. I was like, see ya. And like took off. I was like, thank you. It just like took off. But like I've never had that happen. Ever. But it was just like you could tell
She was
like,
super nervous
and
first
all that
time.
You
stuff.
were helping
yeah.
her out. You
And
were
but
just giving.
literally the most awkward 30 seconds of like, do you want
Do
something?
you-
Do you want my license?
Can I go or?
Are
What's
you?
It's off.
Oh,
Lindy's in there.
Dude,
like,
we got this shit on lock. We got this shit on lock.
my funny cop story. I did get arrested
have you been arrested only once?
thrice.
What states?
Dang.
Yeah, Colorado twice, Georgia once.
I've only been arrested once.
So, in Georgia, believe it or not, for the baby shower. In the baby shower,
Damn,
have
bro.
a great time at the baby shower.
For Miles?
Yeah, go back, drop Treese off at the crib, whatever. Me, my two homeboys, and my cousin, my female cousin Delisa, she came up from Orlando. Well, and Treese's youngest brother, who's already had some run-ins with the law. Anyway,
He was on your podcast.
no, that's her older brother.
Older brother,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So
Sorry.
the younger brother,
And they're still, and they live all up in
yeah,
Georgia.
Augusta. So we go out downtown Augusta, having a great time. And one of my homeboys is way too drunk, and he gets into it with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And my other homeboy is like, yo, stop trying to fight him, whatever.
Yeah.
And they start arguing back and forth. And the cops come up, and as the cops are coming up, homeboy number one pushes homeboy number two
Yep.
just to try to get him to calm down. Cops think they're about to fight, so they come and start grabbing they start grabbing them, and I'm running up trying to stop them to fight, and cop grabs me, swings me around, throws me to the ground, busts my chin, puts me in handcuffs, hands behind the back, and I'm just like, all right, cool, whatever. This is the situation.
Fucking great.
Yeah, cool. Like on the baby shower, okay, whatever the fuck. Fast forward, a whole bunch of other funny shit happens. I'm sitting in the back of the fucking cop car. They don't pat me down, so I could have a fucking gun on me,
Yeah,
and I'm in the back of the cop
amateur
car.
hour.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, I'm from a real city. Like, what are you guys
some
doing?
young Sueys out there.
So,
Ooh, this is not Atlanta.
no, this is Augusta. So
Augusta.
and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
hands behind the back, my phone's in my back pocket, and I'm like, hey Siri, call Trice Mobile speaker. And it calls Trice. And I'm like, hey babe, Don't get mad, but we
She's
may
like,
have gotten arrested
oh my
tonight.
God.
And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna go on the labor with you." And I'm like, "I just want to let you know." Oh, it's actually calling trees. That's hilarious. So it's we're in the back of the cop car or whatever. The cop pulls us out. He's trying to figure out what's going on, and it's a black cop and a white cop, and the white cop's name is call him Charles.
Jamelle.
Charles Black. Exactly. So we're sitting there, and I look at the name tags, and I'm talking to the black dude, and I look at the white dude, and I'm just like, Officer Black, really? And I look at the black cop, and he was just like, yeah. I was like, hey, you guys gotta let us fucking go. This shit is hilarious. Long story short, not long story long, the cop lets both my homeboys go because one of the first homeboy has a license from Georgia. They can figure out who he is. They say, okay, we got your information. We'll let you go. Yeah. They also have a partnership with Ohio, and my other homeboy's from Cincinnati. So they're like, okay, cool. No partnership, no database exchange with Colorado. So they're like, yeah, you're the one that has to go in tonight.
Oh my God!
And I'm like, you gotta
put in the cell for that?
Yeah,
And they
like,
knew that too, and they were like, we gotta bring somebody in.
Yeah,
And we created all that.
we can't let you all go. Yeah, I was like,
But
yeah.
it's kind of fucked up.
Did you have to post
so-
bail, or you weren't even?
No, they let
arraigned
me
or
go the next
anything?
day.
Yeah.
I was good. But
Shit, you had to spend a night.
I mean, it was like
It was
5
already in
a.m.
the
couple
morning.
hours.
Yeah. How
What
busy?
else?
How busy was it then?
Hey, it's
'Cause
Georgia.
It was like a Friday, right?
It's Georgia. It
Mostly a bunch of drunk people. or
Yeah,
what?
it was
Bunch
a
of drunk people, a few little tweakers.
Yeah. couple
some
of
random
rednecks.
person that you're actually really scared of.
Yeah, yeah. My
Jeez,
Denver story is a
Louise.
lot funnier, but I'll say that for another podcast.
But
Damn.
thrice times. So that's one. That's two. What was the other?
Well, that's for a future podcast.
It's for a future
All right,
podcast.
fine.
We got to leave the viewers wanting.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm wanting to know.
we're probably gonna cut that from that.
Which
Well,
part?
that's you. Everyone has veto rights on this show.
So you got
two-thirds.
nervous at the background checks too.
No, I always like self-identify. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
do you?
this happened.
You're like,
that's good.
Yeah,
How-
it's not. I don't have any felonies. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I know, but it's
Yeah.
still awkward as shit. I just wait to see if it comes back because mine was supposed to be a sponge, but this shit always comes back like half the time. So
It's that Catholic guilt you got, Sean.
no, it's not. I'm not.
what are we
Catholic.
drinking?
So we're
I'm
gonna,
guilty.
no, Sean, a lot of Catholic guilt. All right, Fraser Valley Distilling.
For the record, I'm not Catholic.
That's a sore spot. It's not. It is true.
It is for some
Sean's
boys.
statement is true. Mine is false for the records, but I have to give the shit back sometimes. So Jamelle is drinking Fraser Valley Distilling.
A lot sweeter.
Fraser Valley is honestly a fucking great distillery.
Shout
It
out
is
Barry.
located.
Shout out
Yeah,
Barry.
shout out to Barry, master distiller. Not master. He is the distiller. I don't think he's officially a master distiller, but he makes great
B-Rock.
liquor. He makes primarily whiskeys, but they do gins and they do a lot of agave, like quote unquote
Ooh.
tequila stuff.
So
It's a
more like
small little shop.
Mezcal?
Yeah, I don't know if they do a smoky mezcal. They do.
It's not smoky.
They do tequilas, but not called tequilas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're located in Fraser, Colorado, just about
not
3 miles
tequila.
past.
It's tequila.
Oh, that's a spot. In
Tequila.
Fraser. I didn't realize that was there. in
Yeah.
Fraser.
It's
Say that again. It's
great.
past what?
So you go through Winter Park about
Mhm.
3 miles into Fraser. It's found on the east side of the road, and he runs a great shop. They do a lot of. They probably have 20 plus barrels of stuff. This is their single malt. I believe his original passion was single malts. They do great bourbons. They do some Colorado bourbons. They do, which means it's coming from the aquifer, the water source up in that part of the state. And it's young, so nothing is aged super long, but they're really tasty. So shout out to Fraser Valley Distilling.
absolutely. Shout out
Yeah,
Fraser
this
Valley.
one is
They're really
actually a
tasty.
single barrel, single malt.
What's
And-
is there a double malt?
So
tell me
single
about
malt
malts.
means that they're okay. So we're talking about mash bill for a second. Mash bills are what comprises. It's the recipe of the whiskey, and a mash bill for a bourbon is going to be at least part corn. What percent? Do you remember? At least 50%, 51. Yeah, and then it could be wheat, it could be malt, and it could be rye, and sometimes it's even oat. Most don't use oat, and most use 2 or 3 grains for a
Well,
bourbon.
be wheat.
Wheat.
You're usually going to do wheat or rye.
Right,
and then
wheat,
a little bit
rye,
of malt.
or malt,
And do you know why malt is used?
because it was used
barley,
in
the barley.
what's primarily found in Scotch.
No, the
I don't know
barley.
why.
Because what you getting multi-meal.
But it's to help with the fermentation.
Got it. Okay, so it must have a little bit of sugar in it, huh?
Correct.
Got it. So a single malt means that literally the only grain in this is malted barley.
Ah.
So malt refers to barley, malted barley. And so this bourbon, I don't know what High West mash bill is. Do you? It might say. Some of them tell you, some of them
I don't
don't.
know if that one does.
Yeah. Most mash bills are primarily, so if you talk about a rye, if you talk about like a rye whiskey is going to be primarily a rye grain. It could be a bourbon with a high rye.
It's the same context.
Yeah.
So instead of the corn, it's the rye that classifies it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bourbon. Now, you could have a bourbon with a lot of rye in it, but it would still be a bourbon. So maybe one last question to kind of finish off on something in the same vein of like bringing people together. Like, if the goal is heart, if the goal is unity, if the goal
Excuse me.
is like bringing people into spaces in which the current like markers of division are not as prominent, how do we try to do that for our kids? Shawn is the father of two. Jamelle and I, of course, from last week, if you listened, we both have two kids. Shawn, what do you think? Like, I think you're a very intentional parent. What do you do to try to create inclusivity in your kids?
Yeah. So my daughter's going to be 8 next month. My son just turned 4.
Great kids.
Yeah, sometimes. But
who's your favorite?
Kalen.
Clearly.
Thomas, someday you'll
Thomas.
listen to this
Shout out
and
Thomas.
you'll know that he's he knows.
No,
where
I mean,
he
it's
stands.
interesting. It's interesting, though. I actually had this conversation with my dad, and I was like, Dad, you're lying if you don't like me or my brother more. Like, I love my kids equally, but I like one more than the other.
Yeah.
Especially as they get older. Now, that might shift, to be clear.
Be there, yes.
That
I'm
might
there
change,
with you.
but I love them equally. Also, they're both amazing kids and like cool kids and like have their own personalities and stuff like that. But to be blunt, my son right now is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like, he's mean, he's selfish, he's all these things that aren't fun as a human to experience.
The way you should be at 3 years old.
Yeah, and like,
right.
You know.
Figuring
but
out
I'll be
that
honest,
identity.
Kaylin wasn't like that. Kaylin's been like a rock star for a long time. Now, she'll probably like crush me later on, you know.
Right.
But we'll see. But anyways, so for us, I mean, so like this very layered, but having diversity is important to us. So like the conditions from which we live within is important. So like, you know, there's a lot of woke talk about like whoop-de-whoop this, whoop-de-whoop that. But at the end of the day, for me, it's about like how you put your skin in the game and your life. About nothing says more about how you put your skin in the game than what you do with your kids, right? Because you have control over what their lives are like, right?
Right.
And you can curate that. We're all curating existence for our kids, right? And so for me, it first started with like ensuring my kids are in diverse experiences, right? And so around diverse cultures and people that are different than them. So first it's that, like just being exposed to it because they're trying to make sense of the world.
How did you do
right?
that? Like, what moves do you make as a parent to do so?
Well, one, if I surround myself with like a wide range of people and experiences, it's going to happen naturally, right? But then it's also like being conscious about something as simple as like when my kid's like 2, what park do we go to and play, right? Like we live in Denver, right? And as much as we want to say like
right.
parts of Denver that are positive, like Denver's still an incredibly segregated place, right? And so part of it's like where we choose to go, how we choose to like do things, right? And so we've always been really intentional about the conditions from which we experience life, right, for our kids and how they experience life.
Yeah.
The second was like teaching, right? So like part of, you know, how kids learn often is through stories, right? Reading and stories is just a really important part, at least in our lives, about teaching our kids things about society, right? Because they grasp onto stories. So we purposely make sure like her library of books, she, like for example, Kaylin, when we came back one time again from coming back across 70, we're in Kansas City. We went to the Negro Leagues museum together, right? And I bought her Josh Gibson.
Where is that?
That's in Kansas City. It's right next to it's connected to the Jazz Museum there and the rich history of jazz.
Very cool.
In
Have you
Kansas
been?
City. I mean,
I have not.
Kansas
It
City
is
is a
on my list.
cool,
Interesting.
cool spot.
It's also very dangerous.
What's that?
Also very dangerous, but that's another story for another
But
time.
speaking of Kansas City, shout out barbecue.
Shout out barbecue.
Shout
Get
out
Gates.
Yeah.
Gates barbecue.
Yes.
Jackfruit
Gates.
barbecue.
I've been to Gates because
for
it's
the
up that.
vegans.
Oh yeah.
It's up that way.
Jackfruit barbecue.
Yeah. So anyways,
Nerd.
those are examples, I think, and that's just
Vegan,
one
man.
example.
Nothing nerdy about it.
That's just one example. Another example is like thinking about diversity of like different families, right? Like what does like what do my children see? They see me, Meredith. That's family.
They
But
see
there are
me,
tons-
the divorced guy,
Sure, but
with a wonderful woman,
yeah,
not their mom.
yeah.
At the moment, I mean, she's
now-
a good woman too, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, you know what
But
I'm
what
saying.
I'm saying is like a 2 or 3 year old. What do they know? They know like their immediate
They know what
like
they see.
environment, right?
They know what
Right.
they see.
And so part of that was being intentional. Like one book that we read was called The Family Book, and it's just like talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
variations, right? So
That's
so
cool.
so another part is teaching, and then the third part is like honestly where we choose to have our kid go to school. And so we were really intentional about choosing a school that there's a wide range of diversity across racial, cultural, religious, and socioeconomic to the best of our ability that made sense for our situation.
Yeah.
And we tried to do that as much as we could for daycare as well. And that to me, and as someone who came from a pretty diverse in terms of socioeconomic and racial like upbringing, that to me is important because that was out of situation, right? Like,
Right.
you know, when you're not very affluent and you're kind of poor, like you're around poor people, right? And oftentimes there's actually a lot of diversity within the class system, right? And so for me, you know, I'm fortunate to be the first in my family to graduate from college and to be able to like make more money than my parents ever made by the time I was like in my mid-20s. And
Yeah.
that means I was afforded greater choice, right?
Yeah.
Like through affluence. And I choose, though, to be thoughtful about how I define what a good school is. And to me, a good
Yeah.
school is one that has conditions that matter about how the
Yeah.
type of community I want my children to learn in,
Yeah.
and the intentionality behind the community they're a part of in a school setting. So
Gotcha. So
that's
diversity,
been my approach.
teaching, exposure.
But this is her community, right? To be clear, like now she is becoming part of her own community. Kaylin's like,
Yeah.
she has a community without me, right? And as our
Yeah.
kids get older, that's what they have.
Yeah.
But we still get to choose where they exist within,
Yeah.
like where do they make their own communities in?
Yeah.
And to me, that's really important.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's cool. How about for you, Jamelle? What are the ways that you as a dad and with your partner try to create your sons, try to give your sons an opportunity to be raised in an inclusive environment?
You know what? I think it's I think it's kind of funny because it's almost the complete opposite of Shawn, right? Because growing up, having our kids grow up in Denver, it's going to be very one-sided, right?
Right. What is
Right.
the population of people who identify as black? 6%?
Yeah.
7%?
Yep.
Right.
I think
there are
we're
a lot of white people here.
I think we're like 6% of the city and like 3% of the state or something like
Yep.
that.
The community is small.
So it's being very intentional about how we spend our off time. Where do we go? Who do we
Right.
hang out? Because you're going to get the diversity at school. You're going to see Hispanic kids. You're going to see white kids. You're going to see
Right.
black kids. You're going to see everything. You're going to get that, but you aren't necessarily going to get how we identify, how we grew up. Of a big thing that's big for my wife is that when she grew up, they learned a lot of songs, a lot of spirituals that I didn't learn growing up in Denver, right? So she was just like, I want to make sure that they get this experience, right? So curating those experiences that are special or near and dear to our hearts, I think is something that we really try to make sure that we do, because you are going to, with media being the way it is, especially with the advent of social media, with things the way that they are now, there is going to be by default a way that they grow up, but
Yeah.
it is our responsibility to make sure that they know who they are and where they come from.
Yep.
Yeah. Got it. It's interesting to observe.
You're welcome for me sharing that.
Yeah, I say got it. Is that not a good closing line?
Got it.
Yeah.
Not good.
Okay, can we add to the crowd? Can we add to the YouTube comment section? Give advice to Josh for an acknowledgement word. I really tried, y'all.
He went right to his phone because you
Yeah,
No, Josh, I think you're in the zone. Like I could tell that one was different.
Yeah.
You were like thinking about what he was
Yeah.
saying. You weren't like switching the thing. I think you're in
No,
the
that
zone. These
was-
dudes are roasting the shit
Yeah,
out
I
of you.
was
But
clearly
God.
fucking with you.
Sorry, that's
Dang
not-
it, guys.
Jamelle and I can be very mean together. That's kind of our thing.
I know, and I've always absorbed it.
Yeah, you're always the nice
absorbed
guy.
it, and it is my superpower.
That's right. That's
Take a
right.
lot of shit.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
No,
I can
it's
tell
okay.
right now.
It's
I can see
okay.
the tenseness in your
Yeah.
shoulders.
No,
Are you
there's
all right?
no
Just
tension.
relax.
There's no tension.
Just let it
How's your
happen.
back?
It's tight.
Your neck? Your back? How about the...
My crack is good.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how we got here.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to
Bunghole.
what you said, Jamelle, it is interesting what inclusivity looks like, because I think that the short, and maybe it's an inaccurate summary, but the summary is like the goal of inclusivity lies with the majority in many ways, right? And for Shawn and for my kids and other parents of kids who are white or part of a heteronormative or at least a normative majority, our goal, I believe, and obligation and duty is to ensure our students recognize there are more people out there who do not represent the same upbringing or the same cultural context or the same cultural identity markers. And in that sense, our obligation and duty to culture and society is to create, like I think the word you used, Shawn, was like greater exposure. In Jamelle raising two black boys in a city that is predominantly not black, 94% not black. Granted, there is a population of people who identify as not white, but that's right. That's
Still a lot
different,
of white people
right?
here.
And even within black, it's like African black and African American
Yes.
black, which
Yep.
are also very different cultural identities within the black community. The goal there is like creating a sense of identity within your own cultural group, because that is not. That is almost a form of inclusivity in a different way, because if everything is trying to like converge in the middle or converge towards the norm, quote unquote, or converge towards the majority, that's not creating inclusivity. That is assimilation, right? And so it is interesting to observe that there are different ways that we each have responsibilities to creating an inclusive culture, and they can't all be the same thing. The moves that you make as a parent, Shawn, are not the same moves that you make with your wife and with your wife, Shawn and Jamelle, to try to
but
create
still trying
inclusivity.
to get to a shared goal or common goal.
But that is the goal,
But
right?
I will
That is the
say-
goal, is inclusivity, but how we do it looks different, and
Right.
that's cool.
But I will say too, like, cultural heritage is still something that's, I think hopefully important to
Everybody.
everybody.
It's important.
right?
It's important
For-
to know the warts and the glows of it, right? Like there's good and bad in
Well,
everyone's culture.
But I would even say, like, skin don't necessarily mean kin, right? So, like, just because, like, I'll be honest, like, certain types of white people, like, I don't understand.
Right.
That's not my life. You have to understand, like, right? Like, I try to teach my kids, like, a lot of their cultural heritage comes from Appalachia, right? And particularly, like, Kentucky Appalachia, so, like, the Eastern Hills. And a lot of that is about, like, subsistence and about, like, hard work and about
pull yourself up by your
well,
bootstraps.
no, but it's about like you don't have. That's the areas in America that have the least amount of resources.
Yep.
Right.
Nobody's coming to save you.
No one's coming to save you. Like, you are remotely put aside,
Yeah.
and
right.
you have the least amount of education. You have the least amount of availability of food. You have the least amount of availability to work, and there's still a rich history of self-reliance and like food preservation. And that's why gardening is such a like important part of my life, because then my kids be a part of that.
Right.
And how we like,
knowing that culture.
and just like how we name our kids, right? Like, we named our kids to be a like part of like their history and who they are and where they come from. So that cultural piece like spoke to me to Jamelle, because it's like, you know, your culture can get lost if it's not like
preserved,
carried on,
yep.
and preserved and represented in ways that are meaningful.
Shout out to the Eastern Hills of Kentucky.
Yep.
Is that the same place that we were knocking earlier for their whiskey production and White Dog?
Yeah, man, you got to make fun of stuff you love.
Except for the white dogs. We don't like white dogs.
I have two.
You
white
have
dogs.
a white dog.
I have 2 white dogs.
He's white and black.
Where's his black? Is it his paws?
Wow, where
wow,
is his black?
Where is his black?
No,
What?
he's a white. He is white.
Whoa.
He is a white dog.
He is a white. Whoa.
Why-
He
how do you
is
say it's white
he
and
is
black?
a white.
Tell,
A white.
A white
on.
dog. I said dog.
why are you
Ass-
telling people?
How are you
also
telling
more
my dog how he
importantly, dogs
We're
identifies?
gonna
identify?
requote the Jamelle and Shawn can be really mean.
Here we are telling my dog how
I
he
think
should
it's mean.
identify.
You
Tell
told
a
me
dog
he's
how
white
to-
and black. I said, "Where's the black?"
He's
I'm
mixed.
just,
Where's the
where's
black?
the mix?
He's one drop.
I'm just. I wasn't. It wasn't a critical question. It was just like, is it in his pigment
even-
or is it in his heart?
I don't
Wow.
even like the way that you said it. He's a white dog. Emphasis on that was a hard H you just used there.
Was it
White.
White.
Oh, he's a white,
White
dog.
My dogs are both white by circumstance.
No, by
He's
choice.
circumstance.
No, we
Choice. They
adopted-
didn't-
we
they didn't
adopted
buy
them.
him black.
We
and they
adopted
evolved
them.
Culturally white.
culturally white.
Yes.
Yeah, they're loud. They're
So you're like
aggressive,
you're
they're
the opposite
privileged.
of Angelina Jolie. You would date the white ones.
I guess, yeah.
Shout out Angelina
That
Jolie.
wasn't an accident.
Did we shout her
Shawn
out?
was like, I looked at a lot of dogs today, but this is the one that had the
No.
white fur that I really
Especially
wanted.
'cause we got- we
Sean
got-
went in there and was like, "Where's the whitest dog you have?"
I know some of them have a little bit of black, but
I
they're
don't want
white dogs, right?
I don't want any of those black dogs around here. Give me the whitest dog you have.
No. I don't think you understood me.
This white
I wanted
dog's
a
this
white
one
dog.
has white. This one has white fur. His name is Jaquan, but this one is white,
I-
kind of
my
white, but his
dogs
name is
are
Walter.
super- yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'll take Walter. Are you sure he has more white fur now?
No.
Walter and
We'll unpack
William.
that one later. Are you on the? Oh shit!
It
I was
even
about
got
to say, Are you
whiter,
on the
though.
blacklist at the Dumb Friends League?
Yeah.
What do you mean the blacklist?
I will say it even
Why
got
do
funnier.
they call it a blacklist?
It even got funnier though with William.
White supremacy.
Thank you.
Yeah, shit.
I
Why
will
do they
say-
call it the white list?
Here's a
Why
better.
do they call it a white
Wow.
collar event? No
Wow.
one calls it a black collar event.
Black
but you wear a
tie.
black
There's
tie.
black tie,
Black
bro.
tie. You do call
Hey,
black tie.
you know where the tie goes.
on your
Oh,
neck.
shit.
Oh shit! God dang it!
Why you
It's
wearing?
fucking country,
Yeah.
guys.
Look, hey, coincidence?
Hey,
think not.
hey, you know it may be. Can we go to a water park and drink some Kool-Aid?
Why are you looking at me?
Wow.
When you
'Cause
say
he's not,
Kool-Aid.
because he's not
When you
expecting
say
because he's not
Kool-Aid,
expecting you to be
Do
there.
you want me to bring some watermelon and fried chicken too?
You're the one who said Kool-Aid.
Jesus Christ,
You
Josh.
can bring some heart.
Wow.
You can bring some heart. Sean will bring the heart. I will bring the inner tubes. Jamelle will bring the Kool-Aid.
In the
Jamie,
chicken and the
what are you
watermelon,
bringing
apparently,
to the
your-
water
your
park?
perspective.
The inner piece.
The inner piece.
Yeah.
The inner piece of the inner tube, or
All
like
right.
the symbolic piece.
The inner
PEACE.
Of the internet.
There you go.
All right, y'all.
Internet.
Well,
And with that being said,
with that being said, I'd like to close with this. What have you learned tonight? What is your learning from tonight's episode?
that I think you're a racist.
Shit, that's
And that I know you're racist.
this.
I was gonna say this got dark really fast,
Wow.
but you know,
Man, I'm not the one with 2 white dogs at home.
white dog.
Okay, take 2 on that question. What did you really learn tonight? And I will start. Let me see if I can re-engage and reset. I got a new perspective on Deion Sanders. I wasn't critical of him, but I do think that between both of your knowledge about Deion, your perspective on Deion in relation to, like, I thought that was so cool to hear that you were like, we are really rooting for him, almost like it's an OJ situation. And to me, that struck a cool nerve. I don't know how else to put it, but that perspective from both of you was very helpful. Not to change my mind, but to put an extra degree of, like,
Context.
context and respect for what is happening with the CU football program. And I know football is football, but it is also much more than that. It's representative of what society will respect and appreciate, and I wish him the best. I wish him success. I think it is good for many, many places. That is what I learned.
Thank you for sharing that, Josh.
Yeah, you're welcome. Jamelle, what did you learn tonight?
I learned about bourbon.
Oh, yeah. We did talk about bourbon at length, ad nauseum.
I also learned that you have a very different relationship with the police than I do.
Yep.
That is true, and I hope to keep it that way.
And I also learned that there is a way to make sure that diversity is not just talked about but acted on, right? It's easy to say that I want to live in a diverse community. It's easy to say that I want my kids to be a part of, the larger community, but it's easy to say it and it's harder to do it. And I have a lot of appreciation and a lot of respect for those who actually put their
respect
actions behind their words.
Respect. Shawn, thank
Yeah.
you. Jamelle, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
For me, I wouldn't call it as much learning as like resonation, like not resonation, but
Resonance.
rather.
There we go.
Resonance, rather. Just like hearing Jamelle, you share, and this is stuff we talk about all the time, but hearing you share just like that intentional thought of like culture, with Miles, who's an amazing kid. It just made me like reflect on some of the things that like I think I kind of brought up, but like just really resonated with me, that idea of like keeping a rich connection to like your past and your history and where you come from, and like a way that uplifts that is special and like unique and purposeful. Just like in that moment just made me feel so just like connected to that intentionality that we both hold. And I didn't, that's not, we've talked a lot about that, but we haven't talked about that.
Yeah.
And that
cool.
really resonated with me and was more something I learned about you and like the choices, you make in your family, and thinking about that in my own experience, like just like, further connection point for our, you think you spend a lot of time with someone and they're your friend, but there's always pieces that you gather, and it's very fun to have that experience here today.
Awesome.
So.
Shout out to Shawn, the sommelier.
Yeah, the small whiskey small
Shout out to the Stranger.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Jamelle, Shawn, Jamie, thank you all for being here. Thank you if you've listened to this point. Thank you for listening to our second episode.
Shout out Belgium.
Shout out to Belgium. Maybe we can add Eritrea and Luxembourg. Yeah. Goals, but in the meantime, be well, everyone. Thanks for joining, and Campfire Conversations, episode 2. Cheers.
How do you spell sommelier?
S-O-M.